Here we are, guys. Got our side of beef for you. Going to cut it into primals. Right now the sections here on the side are the forequarter and the hindquarter. This will be the forequarter. And the hindquarter. And that would be your entire side. So in the forequarter, the primals that we'll be fabricating out, fabbing out, would be the square cut chuck, 4-shank brisket, 710 rib, and the short plate. Primals will fab out in the hindquarter is the short loin, flank, sirloin, and the round. Okay guys, so we'll be removing the primal, the round from the hindquarter. Separation is inch off of this H-bone, hip bone here, trying to nick the ball and femur. Just cut straight through right here, removing the round. Save the kidney and pull out this pelvic fat. All right, we'll be removing the flank now. This primal here would be considered your whole loin. It consists of your sirloin, your short loin, and your tenderloin, the whole loin. So what we'll do is take a subprimal muscle out. We'll remove the tenderloin so that we can have a full tenderloin, and then we'll do the separation between sirloin and short loin. If we wanted to cut T-bone or porterhouse steaks, we would go ahead and separate, leaving the tenderloin in place, so that when you came back and made your steak cuts, portion cuts, you would be cutting through the tenderloin, and that would give you your porterhouse T-bone. I'll be fabricating out the tenderloin now. Okay, next we make this separation between the sirloin and the short loin. Separation on the tip of the hip, the first bend in the vertebrae, where the vertebrae starts to bend right here. Right here. Here are your primals in your hind quarter, the round, the sirloin, the short loin, and the flank. And we took the tenderloin out prior to splitting so that we would have a whole tenderloin. All right, 4/4 primal. We have the 7/10 rib. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 inches long, 10 inches long mark and cut. So 7/10 rib, the square cut chuck, the brisket foreshank, and the short plate. So we're gonna mark out this 7/10 rib and here. So we're smoking some meat that we had cured. Actually smoking the lamb legs. The lamb legs that we had cured in our cold smoker. Looks like we got a good start to those. Got 4 in there. Lots of smoke, cold smoke. Cold because the temperature is not above 90 degrees. So inside temp right now is at 80.79. And here is where we've got our firebox. And just got a real low, slow burning fire in our firebox. Yeah, cool. All right, so now we're gonna separate the 7/10 rib from the short plate, and the way that we're going to do that is by marking out 10 inches off the chine or backbone. 10 inches, draw a line, and then cut through the ribs. Okay, next we'll separate the square cut chuck. All right, so this is the side broken down into primals. The round, sirloin, short loin, flank, 710 rib, short plate, square cut chuck, brisket foreshank. We'll talk about the round real quick. Muscles in the round. The knuckle, top round, eye round, bottom round, heel shank. You can cut steaks, stew meat, or ground. You can do pastrami round, corned beef round. This whole cooked would be considered a steamship round. Sirloin has top sirloin, bottom sirloin. Bottom sirloin has 3 major muscles. The bottom sirloin would have the ball tip, tri-tip, and flap. So the ball tip, tri-tip's inside, and the flap. The ball tip is actually the knuckle that you cut through. The flap is the bottom round that you cut through, okay? And then you have the top sirloin. So same as with the sirloin, you would bone this out and you could make steaks. So top sirloin steaks, bottom sirloin steaks, good for grinding or larger roast pieces. This primal would be considered the flank. Your flank is actually right here. This portion is where it got cut through. So you have a piece of the skirt, and then down here we have hanger steak. Sometimes this is treated and prepared like London broil, but hanger steak here. Hanger steak, a portion of the skirt and your flank, okay? This muscle here is your tenderloin, the whole tenderloin removed. You could cut filet mignon, portion cuts, medallions. You could use this as a roast for beef Wellington. You could cut this off and have the short tenderloin with the Chateaubriand or that roasting butt tender. This is your whole beef tenderloin. This primal here is your short loin. Short loin, this is where you would be cutting your New York strip steaks. That is your strip steak. New York strip steak right here. The way that you would process this, so mark here, here, draw a line, and remove your short ribs. Could bone this loin out. Bone this loin out, and then you would hand cut your New York strip steaks. Could be bone in or bone less. If you had left the tenderloin in, here we go, this way. One-handed's hard. If you'd left the tenderloin in here and you were to cut your steaks, I had discussed earlier, boom, 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 these would then be the porterhouse T-bone steaks, okay? Without them, you only have the option to do bone in or bone less strip steaks. Okay, in the forequarter, we have the short plate. So short plate contains the skirt, inside, outside, skirt, steak right here, and then your beef, some more beef ribs. This is your 710 rib. There are 7 ribs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they are 10 inches long, 10 inches long. Your 710 rib could be split into a rib roast. Ribeye steaks would be these. So you have the loin eye, you have cap, you have your side eye. Same with the short loin, you would mark above the side eye on both ends, draw a line and remove the ribs. These ribs could then be cut into beef short ribs. Or ribeye steaks could be cut bone in, bone less. You could cut cowboy steaks from this, bone in, 24 plus ounces. From the blade end side on the square cut chuck, the blade end, this is where you would be fabricating your Delmonico steaks. Delmonico, so you have a smaller loin eye but more capping. and that would be your Delmonico steak. You can see the loin eye, side eye, so you would mark here and then over here and draw your line. These would all be beef ribs, beef short ribs. 710 primal. A roast from this, a prime or a standing rib roast, is what we would call a 109. These would also be considered your beef back ribs here, beef back ribs, kind of like those baby back ribs on pork. This primal is called your square cut chuck. It has subprimal muscles, the chuck and clawed, shoulder clawed. So it has the shoulder and the chuck. You would make that separation here. You have a extension of the loin eye. This would be your chuck eye roast. Your chuck eye roast from here. You could also cut chuck steaks. This is great for pot roast. A lot of intermuscular tendons, intermuscular fat. So it's a very kind of compounded and strong muscle, which is good for low and slow. So that's why it makes a good pot roast. Also has a lot of connective tendons and tissue in here, so as those break down, it becomes very flavorful. You do have some beef ribs here as well, and then from the arm, a nice big arm roast here. Could be bone-in or boneless arm roast. Really great for ground beef, ground chuck. You can get some steaks from the blade. From the blade side, you can get the blade side down here when you made that separation. You can get 7 bone blade steaks, a 7 bone blade roast, your flat iron steaks and or rancher steaks would be cut from there. And then you could also get some other cubing meat or usable trim. This primal is considered the brisket foreshank. The brisket, you would bone out your brisket, remove the bones, make the separation, flat and tip or whole brisket. Brisket's good for barbecue, low and slow. And then your foreshank, brisket foreshank, you have an arm roast here, arm roast. You can see that where it was separated, so that nice here. And you could use any of this also for grinding or stew meat. Hot dogs, grind for hot dogs is really good in this foreshank area. Shank steaks, okay, you could run this on the bandsaw and cut nice braising bone-in shank steaks. The additional product that was left from our side of beef was the kidney, beef kidney and beef fat. Beef fat can be rendered down, used for cooking, and you can cook your kidney. Starting from the hind quarter, the round, sirloin, short loin, flank, 710 rib, short plate, square cut chuck, brisket foreshank. This was removed as the whole tenderloin. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed watching the side of beef get cut. I hope you're all well and hope to see you very soon. Stay safe, stay inside, practice good sanitation, hand washing, social distance. We will get back to this at some point. And this was the side of beef. I think it weighed in around 840 pounds. So this side's probably around 300, around there. So enjoy, make comments. I'd like to hear what you think. Keep in touch, text, email, and let me know how you are, what's going on in your life. And again, we will see you soon.